Welcome to the 365 Message Center show. This week we'll be covering loop components in Outlook Mobile. Also cloud.microsoft. Interesting thing there around the domain name change and the new Microsoft Teams channel experience. Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 284, I think, of the 365 Message Center show. I am Daniel, and that over there is...
Darrell. Darrell is a service right here.
Oh, there he is. Yes, and we do have one of the most weirdest changes that Microsoft has done, and we're going to talk about it today. However, first things first.
Yes.
Make sure that you subscribe to this episode by hitting that subscribe button. Actually, subscribe, I guess, to the podcast.
I would hope they come back for other episodes.
Hit the bell so you get reminded of when we post to YouTube. And if you're listening on audio, thank you so much. Give us a rating in the podcast center, wherever you found this podcast. And people, how about give us a share? What we're going to do, we're going to run a contest. Whoever shares this episode the most across all the social media platforms, we've got a prize for you next week. So stay tuned. Go ahead and share across Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the ones that matter. We are not those.
Email distribution lists. How are we going to track those, Daniel?
I don't know how you do the email thing, but do the other things. Tag us though at 365 MCS because we're there. So give us a tag, and then if you share this episode the most across all of those, you get a prize.
I'm motivated.
It's a surprise.
Be sharing. But I guess it's not open to friends and family.
Employees are not eligible.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Daniel, there's some good stuff this week, and I'm excited to talk about this first one. Which, if I had my screen shared properly, I probably would be all ready to do that. So,
this one I think is interesting, and I'm kind of interested in how this plays into desktop because it's talking about mobile experience. So anyway, how about making us a little bit loopy, Darrell, and talking about this first message.
Yeah, easily. Daniel, it's actually something that closes the loop, so to speak.
There we go.
So I know that many of us like to get a lot of work done on our mobiles. So if I just got this message right, let's see if we can turn this on and make it fit. Yeah, that will do. In true fashion. Outlook, loop components in Outlook Mobile MC 548102. And in this, as it suggests, we can already use loop on our mobiles, have been able to use components, opening them up into what's now the Microsoft 365 app. But this is where the loop component will be open and available directly within the Outlook app or Outlook mobile app. So that means we get the benefit of reading an email, seeing the loop that's part of the message, and it's live and interactive right there without having to go to another app. So you'll be able to send new loop components via the Outlook mobile and receive them. Daniel, there's one thing about loop components in email that makes it really convenient. If I mention you in a task, or I send something to you, and you're getting a notification, then the notification is not just, hey, you've been mentioned, but it includes the content where you've been mentioned. And now, have you found that useful at work for those of you who are starting to use Loop?
I have, absolutely. The context around that type of thing, task, for instance, or a comment where asking questions or something, it is very valuable the more information we get at our hands, the better. And so having that information right there is very important. I think for this, I will say I haven't gotten as many via email components, like being able to say, here, let's go, right? So what is your experience with working with others, and you send a loop component, and with the whole changing thing? Because when you sent an email before, it was the content you sent at that time. There's no editing afterwards. Now we kinda can, right? Because you're sending a loop component, which can then be edited after the send. Is that something people have to get used to a little bit?
I think it depends, Daniel. It depends on whether you're still writing the message within the email and then the content within the loop. Now think about this. I still write an email to say, hey everyone, I've got this idea, I want you to review it and add your comments, and maybe I don't choose loop, maybe I use a Microsoft Word document and I send the link, and people can go into the link, they can change that document up. It's going to be different to what it was when I sent the email, and the email content, the body, stays the same. The only difference with the loop is that you see that within the loop. So, there are some concerns people have around, oh no, the content's going to change, but the email content will stay the same. So if you're still accompanying a loop component with your message and what you want people to do with it, then that's not going to change. But the content within the loop will, just like a Word document, just like a PowerPoint, just like anything you send a link to. Yeah, that's my take on it. So the good thing about this is, it helps you to continue on from where you left off. It is live. It compels you to actually get in there and contribute. There is still the story being built out around e-discovery. So loop components are discovered if you run an e-discovery, it will find the content. But what they're still working on in the team is the ability to take that component, discover it in the e-discovery, take it offline, and still be able to read it and not change anything about it. And they've got some good thoughts around how to do that. They just haven't got that available yet. So give that some consideration. If you're an organization that still has certain strict rules around that sort of scenario, and you want to that archiving, retention, compliance, then maybe Loop is not quite ready for you yet. But yeah, so moving along to that, that's going to be available on iOS and Android in early May, so nowish, and expect to be completed by late May. And I'll do a little demo about it when it arrives. But yeah, Daniel, let's move on to that next message, which is super interesting, around how we might be accessing Microsoft 365 services, or even cloud services, from somewhere else.
Cloud, yeah, it's, I don't know how we'll refer to it now, but cloud.microsoft domain for new Microsoft 365 apps, MC550044. This is something that was announced, and there was some conversation this past week around what does this mean, and how does this make things maybe change. So what this is Microsoft is saying, hey, we want our domain to be trusted, number one, and they kind of put that out there as it's something they're trying to do for security, among other reasons. But they're going to be changing in the future, although we don't have too far of or too much of an idea when, but they're going to be changing the way we access services in the cloud. At first, any new Microsoft 365 first-party app experiences starting this month, May 2023, will launch on cloud.microsoft from the start. And then existing workloads will then begin transitioning to the new domain later this year. Now, this is interesting, because if you think about it, how we access a lot of our services, things like Outlook on the web, outlook.office.com. We access teams.microsoft.com. We access. It's interesting in the blog post about this. There's a it kind of shows you services, and one of them Sway. I'm like, well, that was
Yeah.
probably not the one I would have picked as an example, because people are like, what's a Sway? And I haven't heard that in a while. So they're going to be transitioning to, presumably later this year, right? Because not right now, but later this year, to something cloud.microsoft. So Microsoft owns their own TLD, which is the top level domain, like .com, .net, .co, all of those. So what's going to be interesting is, how does this impact our existing workloads? And what are the new ones? What are the new apps? They say any new apps. Well, what are those? It's interesting to think about. But what's going to happen to existing ones? So I'm assuming like outlook.office.com would become outlook.cloud.microsoft, or would it be outlook.office.cloud? I don't think so. Looking at those examples, I think that's what it would
Yeah.
become.
Well, the little animated GIF
Yes.
does show
Yep.
outlook.cloud.microsoft, loop.cloud.microsoft, OneDrive.cloud.
Yep.
What else is
So
there?
one
Viva.
thing it it says Viva, which, okay, that's
Teams.
interesting, but it doesn't give us an example of SharePoint. Because, and this is one of the ones I'm thinking about. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to do this. I don't know information, but things like right now in your tenant, when you go to your SharePoint site, to your intranet site, it's tenant. So mine might be Daniel Company, .sharepoint.com. It would be the root of my SharePoint tenant. Well, how is that going to play into this? Is SharePoint part of this? Is it excluded? They don't make any mention of anything excluded, so we're assuming that it is going to. So would it be danielcompany.cloud.microsoft? I don't think so. Would it be danielcompany.sharepoint.cloud.microsoft? What kind of user experience is that? So anyway, I think that's interesting. I hope you keep a watchful eye on this for different services, because I'm assuming the redirects will be there, meaning if you go to outlook.office.com, it'll redirect you to outlook.cloud.microsoft. So I'm assuming that would happen. But what kind of experience will this be moving down the road for those things they're going to be moving over? What do you think, Darrell? Do you think there's any kind of rub here, some friction on this change at all? This is the one I was mentioning about. It's kind of odd. This is a pretty big change across the board that's being announced for this year.
There's services which lend themselves to be easily changed in terms of a domain name. Outlook and mailboxes are they're distributed already, and it doesn't really matter about the URL where they are, because the service will point you through to your mailbox, and it will piece it together with the rest of the mailboxes in your organization. Services like Loop, which are new-ish now, there's some interesting cloud storage that has changed a bit there, and I think it'll be announced at Build as to what that is. But that seems to be, doesn't have a tenant name in there. It's found at a place. So the domain name change probably wouldn't affect that too much there either. But it's when it's established like SharePoint and OneDrive, and there's a pathway to a file, and there's applications and all sorts of other things that use those paths. That I think would mean that they're last off the rank in terms of making those changes. There's a lot of things to coordinate for that change.
Indeed, and I actually just tried a couple of things. Viva.cloud.microsoft redirected to the Microsoft365.com page right now. And then I just tried outlook.cloud.microsoft and it didn't go anywhere. So that's interesting. So, like I said, this is rolling out May for new things, and then moving forward in the year for existing things. We don't have a time frame there, but I'm pretty sure.
No sooner than the second half.
Right. But I'm pretty sure they will let us know before they start doing this, because
hey, a new service could be Microsoft Places. That's one that hasn't been released yet. That might hang off the new domain name.
Maybe. Indeed. So, talk about new experiences, Darrell. I'm really excited about the new channels experience.
Yeah, so within Teams, channels are definitely getting a rework. This is Microsoft Teams new channels experience, MC55081. The new channels have a few different things that will flip you on your head in a bit in terms of where things are, but that's a good thing. So first up is the compose box. Today we compose a Teams message at the bottom of a channel. And it has often and still catches people out that they think that they're replying to a conversation and they're actually creating a new one. So this change is actually going to help that. The compose box comes to the top of the conversation channel. Rather, if we think about a channel and we visit a channel, the first thing that we will see, and I might just open up a example of that. Let's get this open for our audience. At least those that are watching. Not a great image. It's a little blurry, but also describe it to our listeners. Typical Teams, you've got Teams and channels down the left-hand side. The new channel experience still starts with posts. And what's happening is your post box or your compose box is at the top of that channel. You get to choose what kind of post it is, post or announcement. And then immediately below that is the most recent message, and that also has replies against it. So you're not going to the bottom of your channel now to see new messages. It's at the top, which is actually quite consistent with a lot of other applications and conversation styles. Engage, for example, is like this. On the other aspect of this, Daniel, is the side panel where in this channel, they want to highlight more than just here's the conversations, but here are some people that are in this channel. A description of the channel, which is new, having a channel description. We usually have a description for a team.
Yeah.
And that's good because it gives you some guidance and purpose around why we've got this channel, what's it for. Pinned messages. I always think of a pinned message as being something at the top of your conversations, much like pinning a message in Outlook, right? But these pinned messages will be off to the side, still quite visible. If you haven't read them, it appears that they'll be bold. Again, this is just a render. And then at the bottom of that, you've got some updates. So if there's anything that's changed in the channel, there's a quick way to catch up with any things that have changed. And I think maybe that's okay. It just means that the description has been changed on the channel. I don't know if that means.
Well, things like what I would expect to show up there. Hint, hint. I would expect to show up there is if you're adding or removing people from the channel.
Right.
Those updates will show up there. So I know you didn't ask, Darrell, because you hadn't gotten there yet, but I absolutely love this side panel being there.
Yep.
Because especially on larger screens, it is totally wasted space over to the right.
Yeah.
We do have that. There's the hide. You can hide that thing. So at the top right. You can click that and it'll hide it. If maybe you're on a smaller screen and you don't want to see the whole panel, but the description is there. When you create a channel now, it asks for a description.
Oh, okay.
It's optional because you really can't see it easily
No,
anywhere.
no, you're right.
um, but I'm really liking this pinned because, man, it just makes so much sense to have it readily available instead of hidden
Mm,
behind a menu.
mm.
So I'm loving this.
It's not obvious from the image too. I'll just go back to the message, but some other things that are changing up here are that conversations, they sort of term it as they get their own space. Now that means that you can you can focus on a conversation thread rather than seeing the whole channel and rather all the conversations in a feed. That you can pop that conversation out. So it's not really in that screenshot that we've got as a demonstration, but it is one of the ways of being able to focus in on the conversation. Um, so there will be a button, much like with chat, where you can pop it out to a separate window and focus in on that. We've talked about the pane, we've talked about the posts that can be pinned, and they talk about simplified badging, which is badging being if you've been mentioned in a conversation, that it will have that little badge beside the thread to say, hey, you probably should expand this bit here because someone said something and mentioning you or mentioning the team, and you can glance down there and quickly see it. So yeah, these changes are good. I know there was this other one here too, a view of that. It also affects your mobile experience. So be prepared for that. I think the most jarring change of this is that as you start to um, use it, it is all about the content being at the top. And actually, from experience too, Daniel, it also guides you towards good practice of adding a subject to a new post, right? If you click into that new conversation box at the top, start a new post, it's going to give you a space where a subject is optional, but I recommend using one because it's easier to identify what the conversation's about. It'll have the toolbars available there too, so you can format your message. And it means that it's less likely that you're going to be typing away and you hit enter and you meant to actually use a new line, but you end up posting because you're already in an editing sense. You've got all your tools available.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be more changes aligned to this. This is just the start, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a good start. And look for some more changes in channels. When is this happening? Standard and GCC will be rolling early June, and GCC High and DoD begin rolling out mid July. So not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Daniel, let's shift over to looking at Viva and some changes around the dashboard.
Okay, great. Let's do it. This Viva Connections dashboard customization, MC549347. And you can't tell by the title, but this, I think, and I'm going to tell you why, is mobile only. There's a couple of reasons why. First is the first couple of sentences say mobile in them. So assuming this is on mobile only. But then I'll explain the second reason why I believe that in a moment. But basically, this is a way for your end users to reorder or hide cards on their Viva Connections dashboard as a per user preference. So unfortunately, we don't have a screenshot here showing us, what that would even look like. We do have a screenshot that shows us as an admin that is a manager of the dashboard being able to turn this feature on and off, saying, allow users to rearrange and hide dashboard cards. So the way you create your dashboard, you go into it and there's two experiences that you manage as an admin, as a manager of the dashboard. One is a desktop experience and one is mobile. And that's the second reason why I think, it goes in line with this mobile thing is that, or the mobile thinking is that it is two separate experiences from a manager perspective of how these things are arranged. So I can see why this would be mobile, but I could also see if that's true, how that's bad, because you're basically having two different usage and views of the dashboard. Hey, I hid that card. Where I moved it to my bottom, but it's at the top now again when I go to the desktop. That kind of seems like a stinky experience. So anyway, this is, again, going to be per user, but the biggest thing I have with this is that what if I, as a card creator, as a admin of my environment, or I put a card on there. I target it to certain users because they need it. And then they go and hide it. Maybe it's a major communication way. Maybe I'm using it to surface important news or information from an HRIS system that now they've gone and hidden. What does that look like? And what does it look like from an experience of because we don't have a screenshot, how do users turn it back on? What if an admin wants everyone to have, we're getting reports that everybody went and they hid this card, and how do we force it back to them? It doesn't look like there's a method to do that other than just turn off, maybe allow users this toggle. Yeah. Maybe it resets everything. We don't know. So there's a lot of questions here, Darrell, right? That we just don't have answers to.
Yeah. Expected, I guess. The way that they're rolling it out says standard release. So it's not like they're even sending it out to, your first release experience. So you can't kind of preview it. It's going to hit your organization, and if you've turned the ability on or off, then it will be there, and you'll just, I guess, see how people react to it and use it. I'm with you, Daniel. There are some cards, certainly with our clients, that they want to put them at the top of the list because it's used as a way to communicate certain things of value. Maybe it's having certain metrics at the top that help to drive some of the organizational goals, and everyone's aligned to it because they can see that there and go, yeah, we're doing great this month, that's amazing. Oh no, I don't want that, I'm going to hide that. So yeah, be interesting to see how this actually plays out. The only control, as you say, is it on to allow people to change them and hide them, change the order, hide them or not.
Yeah. Well, and I think the really good one thing about this is they're bringing the toggle before they're going to allow users to even do it. So the toggle will be there mid to late May for admins. And then for users, it'll be after that. So if it's late May, it's going to be, early June for the users for it to show up. However, I just really would like to see what that looks like. So I could advise my users, don't do it. Or for the support desk, how do they turn it back on, right? So how do they unhide it? I'm assuming there's going to be a label that says hidden cards that they can click, and then. But
hidden cards.
Anyway,
and I think another option I'd like to have too is, regardless of what you choose, there's still some cards that I want you to see.
That's right. Yeah, I'd like to be able to go into the card settings when I'm creating it, or go back and edit it and say this card cannot be hidden. Period. Or maybe not but not moved.
Right.
Because this is also about moving, right? So maybe they take that really important card and they move it all the way down to the bottom. And it's like, no, I want it at the top.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, I'm not saying this functionality is bad, because I actually do like this functionality. I don't know anything, people, but what if this is just the first step into creating your own cards? Even if it's just a simplified card of a link or something like that you can add yourself as a user on your own dashboard. That would be interesting, right? Because now we're getting, this is a personalized experience, meaning there's somewhere now there's going to be storage per user that says which cards you have hidden and which cards you've moved. So now there's a storage. So why not include in that storage a way to create your own cards? Simple cards even. So
Or select
anyway,
from a catalog of cards, and
right.
here's some ones that we want everyone to see, but you might want to select some that are
Yeah,
relevant to you.
there's been dashboard in a box, providers, also intranet in a box providers that all do that. So it wouldn't be surprising. All right, moving along, we've got an update here on another Microsoft Teams update that I think could be very useful for organizations, simplifying app access.
Yeah, prepare to sort of go slowly with me in the title. Microsoft Teams, got it. We know what you're talking about. Colon, install apps based on user activity with auto install approved apps. AAA, and we're not talking about the Automobile Association. No. But we are talking about message MC 548106, and that Teams will be listening to the apps that your organization uses, separate web apps, and a couple come to mind that I use, like the Mirror Interactive Whiteboard, or what we're saying, Asana, and other things like that. That when you go to sign into those apps in the web browser on its own, there are apps that are available for them in Teams. And so what will happen is with this new change, the service will know that, oh, you're signing in with a Microsoft 365 account that's part of your organization. How about we suggest and we add those apps into Teams for you? And we'll let you know that we've done that so that you can use these apps within Teams. You don't have to go out to the separate web app. So that's really the summary of what that message is. We've got an example of what that looks like down here. Again, we'll just blow that up a bit, and so you can see something of that. Ooh, that's a bit big. Let's just try that in a bigger screen. So good to see another good message with here's what it will look like. You've got a activity feed notification to say apps have been added for you, just for you. That's nice, just for you. Wow. Then there's the list of the apps over in the body, or the bigger part of Teams where your messages are. You've got like in this example, there's Figma, Asana, and Miro, and that you could open those up. Now, they're going to be added and available going forward from that point underneath the three dots on the personal app rail. And it will be over to you if you want to pin them to make them more accessible or not. But Daniel, what do you think is, how do I put this? What is driving this suggestion or automatic adding of apps into Teams?
I have some guesses. Do you want to hear guesses or?
Oh, look, no, we don't call them guesses here. We call them analysis.
Oh, yes. After analyzing all of the information I had, I came up with two good reasons.
Yes.
One is driving people to stay within Teams, even though they're using third-party apps that there's apps for in Teams, right? So stay in within Teams, not pop out to a browser. The second one, though, took a little bit more analysis, a little more time for me to dive into the data. And speaking of data, that's the reason I want this reason is around data. Wouldn't it be nice for Microsoft to say, hey, we have driven, 100,000 users to Figma this month through Teams, or similar, right? So, hey, we're driving content. And then wouldn't it be interesting to say, hey, we're driving content for that. Hey, app developers. Wouldn't it be nice for us to drive that much, or more to your content, right? So develop Teams apps. Come on, you can do it. See, we have users doing that. And so, maybe that's it.
Maybe, yeah.
Again, that's just my, analysis
I like
folks.
that. No, we're going to keep using that word because it makes us sound really smart. Um, I think it is a good thing. Kind of on a usability level too. Um, Maybe I'm going to continue to use them in a separate web browser because it gives me more real estate, and that currently Teams will forget where I am if I change between apps. Now, we're yet to see as the Teams 2.0 comes out and it goes into GA, where there's certain things that will change in that experience. But I can see that one other advantage of adding these apps for you is it's not just about having them on the app rail. It means they're now going to be available for you in a Teams chat, in a conversation, add into a meeting. They're already installed for you so that they're ready to go when you need them.
Indeed.
So yeah, that's what was the dates around here? Message summary. Somewhere down here we'll have when will this happen? Here it is. Here it is. Um, so that's the other part, and I'll try and keep this short and less confusing. Apparently, some of you have got this message already. Yeah. And so if you're seeing this message again, it means that you will be seeing this capability in middle of May. However, if you have not seen this message, then in this same message, this will be the first time you've seen it, then it will be complete late June for you, coming out mid-May. So we found that interesting. Aside from the message
Very.
content itself, that it's an interesting way to roll it out to an early group of people to say, here's the message, it's coming, prepare, but only to a small group of users. And then this one brings it all back together again.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's
Yeah.
like they did a pilot or something.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how they did that.
Yeah. Oh, finishing off, Daniel. And I know we've kept them in after class for a bit long.
Yep.
But tell us about this last one.
Well, this one's a quick one anyway. Viva Engage iOS and Android apps navigation updates MC55087. This one is a pretty simple change. They're taking the access of and moving the inbox and notification shortcuts that are in the bottom in the app and putting them in the top right. And that way, they say you have easier access to it. I personally feel like it's to give better spacing down at the bottom, and so you can see those things as well. So, but it is easier access, so you don't have to go into.
Is it though? I mean, where's my thumb? Where's my thumb? It's down the
You
bottom.
need to move your thumb to the top.
Oh, okay.
Just remove it from that part of your hand and put it at the other part. So this is rolling out early May, so now-ish, and expect to be completed by late June. So it's going to be a couple of a month rollout, but pretty simple change here. Something that you may want to communicate if you are using Viva Engage and have encouraged your users to use the mobile applications, then maybe give them a heads up on what's coming. Whether that's in your newsletter, in your lunch sessions, in your trainings, or however you communicate that out to your change agents in your organization, this is something you might want to consider letting them know.
Yep, they've moved your cheese, but they're making space for other types of cheese. Yeah, it's places for storyline, communities, answers, etc. down the bottom. I guess that doesn't really say that in the message, does it?
Oh, you just guessed at stuff.
Well, they gave me a render. What else am I supposed to guess? It's right there.
You just
in the
totally
picture.
guessing.
I
But that's what we
analyze
do. We do no, it's not guessing.
Analyze.
It's analysis.
Yes.
You analyzed it.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, that is the show. Thank you for staying in after class because we deliver value, and because we deliver value, we want to remind you to continue to keep tapping into that value. Do subscribe if you haven't. Do like this to say that you found it valuable.
Thumbs up, people.
Yep. And if you've been listening to this podcast episode and wherever you get your podcasts, then do the same. Leave us a rating. Let us
Give us
know.
a share. Remember, on the socials, at 365MCS, everywhere that's important. We're there.
Prizes are involved apparently. Oh, prize.
Well,
Prizes.
we'll see what they are.
Yeah, okay. Still
Yeah.
going to draw that down from our budget.
That's correct. So the person who shares most across all the social channels where we are, we're gonna give you a nice prize.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll see you again next week, everyone. Bye for now.